Hey, Squirrel Squad, back for Joe's boys. Is there any art out there? Asked Bess, thinking what a good study in black and white Dan would make as he stood talking, half turned from the light. Excuse me, just trying to get rid of something. Okay. Plenty of nature, dear, and that is better. You will find splendid animals to model and scenery such as you never saw in Europe to paint. Even prosaic pumpkins are grand out there. You can play Cinderella in one of them, Josie, when you open your theater in Dansville, said Mr. Laurie, anxious that no cold water should be thrown on the new plan. Stage struck, Josie was caught at once, and being promised all the tragic parts on the yet unbuilt stage, she felt a deep interest in the project and begged Dan to lose no time in beginning his experiment. Bess also confessed that studies from natures would be good for her and wild scenery improve her taste, which might grow over nicely if only the delicate and beautiful were set before her. I speak for the practice of the new town, said Nan, always eager for fresh enterprises. I shall be ready by the time you get well started. Towns grow fast out there. Dan isn't going to allow any woman under 40 in his place. He doesn't like them, especially young and pretty ones, put in Tom, who was raging with jealousy because he read admiration for Nan in Dan's eyes. That won't affect me because doctors are exceptions to all the rules. There won't be much sickness in Dansville. Everyone will lead such active, wholesome lives, and only energetic young people will go there. But accidents will be frequent owing to wild cattle, fast riding, Indian scrimmages, and the recklessness of Western life. That will just suit me. I long for broken bones. Surgery is so interesting, and I get so little here, answered Nan, yearning to put out her shingle and begin. I'll have you, doctor, and be glad of such a good sample of what we can do in the East. Peg away, and I'll send for you as soon as I have a roof to cover you. I'll scalp a few red fellas or smash up a dozen or so cowboys for your special benefit, laughed Dan, well pleased with the energy and fine physique which made Nan a conspicuous figure among other girls. Thanks, I'll come. Would you just let me feel your arm? Splendid biceps. Now, boys, see here, this is what I call muscle. And Nan delivered a short lecture with Dan's sinewy arm to illustrate it. Tom retired to the alcove and glowered at the stars, while he swung his own right arm with a vigor suggestive of knocking someone down. Make Tom sexton. He'll enjoy burying the patients Nan kills. He's trying to get up the glum expression proper to the business. Don't forget him, Dan, said Ted, directing attention to the blighted being in the corner. But Tom never sulked long and came out from his brief eclipse with the cheerful proposition. Look here, we'll get the city to ship out to Dansville all the cases of yellow fever, smallpox, and cholera that arrive. Then Nan will be happy and her mistakes won't matter much with immigrants and convicts. How terrible. I should advise settling near Jacksonville or some such city that you might enjoy the society of cultivated persons. The Plato Club is there, and a most ardent thirst for philosophy. Everything from the East is welcomed hospitably, and new enterprises would flourish in such kindly soil, observed Mr. March, mildly offering a suggestion as he sat among the elders enjoying the lively scene. The idea of Dan studying Plato was very funny, but no one except naughty Ted smiled, and Dan made haste to unfold another plan seething in that active brain of his. I'm not sure the farming will succeed, and a strong leaning towards my old friends, the Montana Indians. They are a peaceful tribe and need help awfully. Hundreds have died of starvation because they don't get their share. The Sioux are fighters, 30,000 strong, so governments fear 'em and gives them all they want. I call that a darned shame, except he didn't say darn. Dan stopped short as the oath slipped out, but his eyes flashed and he went on quickly. It's just that, and I won't beg pardon. If I'd had any money when I was there, I'd have given every cent to those poor devils, cheated out of everything, and waited patiently after being driven from their own land to places where nothing will grow. Now, honest agents could do much, and I've a feeling I ought to go and lend a hand. I know their lingo, and I like 'em. I got a few thousands, and I ain't sure I have any right to spend it on myself and settle down to enjoy it, hey? Dan looked very manly and earnest as he faced his friends, flushed and excited by the energy of his words, and I felt that little thrill of sympathy which links hearts together by the tie of pity for the wronged. Do it, cried Mrs. Joe, fired at once, for misfortune was much more interesting to her than good luck. Do it, echoed Ted, applauding as if at a play. And take me along to help. I'm just raging to get among those fine fellows and hunt. Let us hear more and see if it is wise, said Mr. Lorry, privately resolving to people his as yet unbought prairies with Montana Indians and increase his donations to society that sent missionaries to do this much wronged people. Dan plunged at once into the history of what he saw among the Dakotas and other tribes in the Northwest, telling of their wrongs, patience, and courage as if they were his brothers. They call me Dan Firecloud because my rifle was the best they ever saw, and Black Hawk was as good a friend as a fellow would want. Saved my life more than once, and taught me just what will be useful if I go back. They're down on their luck now, and I'd like to pay my debts. By this time, everyone was interested, and Dansville began to lose its charm, but prudent Mr. Bear suggested that one honest agent among many could not do much, and noble as the effort would be, it was wiser to think over the matter carefully, get influence and authority from the right quarters, and meantime look at lands before deciding. Well, I will. I'm going to take a run to Kansas and see how that promises. Met a fellow in Frisco who'd been there, and he spoke well of it. The fact is, there's so much to be done everywhere that I don't know where to catch on, and half wish I hadn't any money, answered Dan, knitting his brows in the perplexity all kind souls will feel when anxious to help at the great task of the world's charity. I'll keep it for you till you decide. You're such an impetuous lad. You'll give it to the first beggar that gets hold of you. I'll turn it over while you are prospecting and hand it back when you're ready to invest, shall I? Asked Mr. Lorry, who had learned wisdom since the days of his own extravagant youth. Thank you, sir. I'd be glad to get rid of it. You just hold on till I say the word. If anything happens to me this time, keep it to help some other scamp as you help me. This is my will, and you all witness it. Now I feel better. And Dan squared his shoulders as if relieved of a burden after handing over the belt in which he carried his little fortune. No one dreamed how much was to happen before Dan came to take his money back, nor how nearly the act was his last will and testament. And while Mr. Lorry was explaining how he would invest it, a cheery voice was heard singing, Old Peggy was a jolly lass. Ye heave ho, boys, ye heave ho. She never grudged her jack a glass. Yeave ho, boys, yeave ho. And when he sailed the raging main, she faithful was unto her swain. Yeave ho, boys, yeave ho. Emil always announced his arrival in that fashion, and in a moment he came hurrying in with Nat, who had been giving lessons in town all day. It was good to see the latter beam at his friends as he nearly shook his hand off. Better still to see how Dan gratefully remembered all he owed Nat and tried to pay the debt in his rough way, and best of all to hear the two travelers compare notes and reel off yarns to dazzle the landlubbers and homekeepers. And guys, I know that's not much, but I got the case of the dry mouth again, so I'll have to stop there for now. And hopefully Bells will be reading On the Banks of Plum Creek to you guys today. See you later. Have a great, what is today? Thursday. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Hope to see some of you at Sharon's Zoom, 1:30 Eastern. So that's about an hour from now. Of course, this has to upload. Okay. Love ya. Bye-bye.